Hello everybody, my name is Veladam01 and welcome to my new series City Skylines East of the Curtain. In this series I am going to build a former Eastern Bloc city which will be heavily inspired by Hungarian cities and also a little bit inspired by City 17 from Half-Life 2 and also by Akruas's Altengrad city, which I think Altengrad is just basically a City 17 before it became City 17. So much that if anyone would Photoshop a combined citadel onto a screenshot of Altengrad, I would totally believe that this is legit from City 17. So, what I am going to try to build in this city series, just a recreation of City 17, how might it look like before the combined invasion and the 7-hour war. So just another unlivable former Eastern Bloc city. The map where I am building on the city is a completely flat map with only a small lake in the middle of the starting square on it. This map is not on the workshop, it is only made for my project and it has absolutely nothing on it because it is easier to not have to adapt to the terrain, but to make myself the terrain what I want, so I don't have to adapt to rivers and mountains and everything. The city will be sitting on the two sides of the river, which could have been inspired also by Budapest in Hungary, which is cut by half by the river Danube in the middle of the downtown. Or it could have been also inspired by Szeged, which is a city in the south of Hungary, and it is cut half by the river Tisza. And to be honest, one of the bridges which I built in this video ended up look like kind of similar to one of the bridges in Szeged, the Belvárosi híd. You can see it on the screen. While the other bridge which I built in this video, in this episode, is kind of a smaller version of the Erzsébet híd in Budapest, which I think everybody who once has to be in Budapest knows which bridge is it. So, what I did next after building the bridges is I started to build the road layout of the downtown, and you will see that it was I tried to make kind of a chaotic road layout which is quite simple but still kind of a zigzag roads around everything you can see. Like this kind of blocks which I built, these 20 by 15 units, which is kind of a cut half by these 45-degree connections on the screen you can see. So I tried to recreate the zigzag of the roads in Budapest, inner city, the city center of Budapest, while I try to maintain the simplicity of the building. So anyway, I think I will just go off for a bit and I will let you enjoy the time-lapse and I will be right back, but until then I will just let you listen to some really good Half-Life 2 soundtrack. Okay, so here I am again, and what you see on the screen right now is me trying to make these kind of back alleys using Class's pedestrian paths, the 8-meter wide versions of it. And why I am doing these kind of back alleys in the middle of the downtown blocks is to recreate this Eastern European vibe where you can just go and walk between the building, which is not the street but really between the building where it is kind of complicated to go into by car. This area, this is what I am doing right now on the screen, is inspired by Half-Life 2's that part of Half-Life 2 where you are just trying to go to Kleiner's laboratory in point insertion, and you end up getting between these residential blocks where you will just be discovered by the Combine, and that part where you will just get that attention residence miscount detected in your block. And later in this episode you will see that in these kind of areas, this kind of back alleys, I will just put everything that you can imagine, like playgrounds, basketball courses, and some utility services like water pumps and electrical substations. So you will see that this will be a really interesting part of the city and also an interesting part of the video. After I finished building the downtown road layout and the back alleys, I started to populate the city. You will see that I start plopping the buildings, and I eventually plopped every single building by hand, and I also built every single downtown block separately, and this is because I didn't want my city to be so much repetitive. So in this time lapse you will see that I used a whole bunch of different kinds of assets, including modern city buildings, modern assets by iTortilla. I used the classical Central European building pack by FindBuild, and also I used some of the Baroque assets by Titan, and also incorporated some high-rise, ugly high-rise building. You will see it on the left of the screen right now. Actually this high-rise building, this high-rise residential block, I can't remember who made this asset, because the creator of the asset often changes his username on the Steam, so you have to search for it if you want to find that asset, but it's in my collection, so you will find it in my collection if you want to. And so I managed to make a completely not repetitive downtown, and where I could also incorporate and squeeze in commercial assets, because the assets which I use by Lichwiarts, I plopped down some Lichwiarts' building. They are actually commercial assets, also they look like residential, they are actually commercial, so the city won't complain about commercial demand. And I also could manage to solve or take care of the land value issue, because the modern building which I actually used in this time lapse, the modern building by iTortilla, they are actually a unique building, ploppable park building, or I don't know what kind of building, but they are actually boosting the land value, so no building will complain about the land value at the end of the time lapse. And by the way, the time lapse. This time lapse that you are seeing right now on the screen is actually 8.5 times faster than the original footage, because when I was recording and placing down the buildings, somehow I managed to waste my time so much that the original footage turned out to be at least 1 hour long. And this is only the placing down the buildings part of the footage. The detailing time lapse is again at least 50 minutes extra long. So when I was editing this video, I just find it easier to just speed the footages up and do a voiceover under it. But in the end, I think it was worth it, that wasting so much time on this video and building the downtown, because it actually turned out so pretty nice and so pretty realistic, especially after the detailing part, that if you are watching this video from Central or Eastern Europe, I think you will definitely feel at home. And here is the last section of the video, the detailing and decorating section. As you can see, I just went into full copy-paste mode because I just placed down every asset into one part of the town and just move it to copy and paste them into their final place. During this section I used again a lot of assets, mostly ploppable playgrounds, trees, and this kind of electric substation and water pumping station. And I even used some procedural object because I wanted to use a planter which was too small for the purpose, and I just used procedural object to make it 2 times bigger than it originally was. And you might also notice that for some props I still converted into PO even if I didn't modify them. And that's because I'm just going by the old rule that if you can convert something into PO, especially props, you must convert them into PO because you can save on the prop count. And also I have the mod which extends the prop limit. I still converted these props into PO because I don't want to look after the prop limit if I am about to reach it with the prop count. And what I also did during decorating my downtown is I just created this kind of restaurant terraces in the backyard of the building because maybe there is a restaurant operating in some buildings. And you can see me that I struggled a bit with selecting the decals and the park assets for the restaurant backyards, because these assets which I used here are actually park assets, and also they are complaining about no road access. They are still working and citizens will actually sit down at the tables, but even they are turned out pretty nice. Sadly, I still didn't build many of them. So as you can see, I just decorated every area of the downtown which was left empty without any plans to build something on it in the future. Sadly, there are parts which are not recorded when I was detailing them because they were mostly oversights when I was recording the detailing time-lapse, and they were just some fixes after recording when I just fixed these mistakes or just decorated places which I accidentally left empty during the recording. Anyway, I am just letting you enjoy this time-lapse with the decorating, and see you later in the end cinematics. And here are the ending cinematics of this episode. As you can hear, I choose Lab Practicum from Half-Life 2 soundtrack to play under these cinematics because I think this is the best song to give back the atmosphere of Central and Eastern European cities. Sadly, I don't have any first-person ground-level walk-around of the city because I accidentally forgot to record these footages and I didn't want to boot up my save game again to record them. So I can only show you this kind of flyover and riverside and rooftop look-around footages of my city. Also, this is the end of this episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. I hope I will see you in the next one too, where I will build an industrial area for the city to have the citizens a workplace. Thanks for watching this episode. I was Veladam01. See you later in the next one. Goodbye.